What's up, my people? First of all, Mom's doing better. I talked to my aunt's visiting her right now. I got to talk to her on Facebook Messenger or whatever it was, and she's real. She knew who I was. She knew who the dog was. She knew the kids were. She said she loved us, but she's still real foggy. She thinks she's got to call and work tonight. So just update on that. But I'm making this video because in the Senate right now there's a bill. They're calling it the Home Built Ban, and basically what this bill does, if you read it, is it bans CNC machines, drill presses, anything like that. If you get caught with any tool that they could say that you had intent to build a firearm, it bans that. Now, we've talked about this before, and for my people that are new subscribers in the last month, I haven't talked about this very much. The federal government has no authority to create a law that can be enforced here in Ohio. Period. There's no question about it. They just don't have that authority or jurisdiction. If they did, we'd be called the federal state of America. That's what we would have been named. The anti-federalists were, their biggest concern with the new federal government was that the federal government would eventually give itself these powers to create these national sweeping laws. That's why they wanted to remain Confederate states. And we now see their worry come to fruition. But that's why we have the 10th Amendment. Out of 126 proposed amendments, the 10th Amendment is what it is because of what the anti-federalists were worried about. They were worried the federal government would eventually create national sweeping laws that would be enforced in all the states. And that's what we're seeing happen. We've seen it happen. And it's being allowed to happen. It started with it probably goes back for the NFA. I should have done some research into this before I started making this video. But I know the NFA is the big one where it was a national sweeping law. The federal government said, you states can't do this. The federal government only exists because of the union of the states. If Ohio wanted to succeed today, we could. We're not required to remain a part of this union. Of course, Ohio's not going to succeed from the union because, well, frankly, there's a bunch of cowards. And this all goes all the way back to Lincoln's day when Lincoln said the federal government had, the Civil War. The federal government has the authority to stop a state from succeeding, or multiple states, and they don't. The federal government only exists because of the union. That's it. It doesn't have a greater, people say all the time that you hear people say the federal law trumps state law. No, it doesn't. The feds, including Congress, only have jurisdiction over lands that have been legally purchased from the many states. That's it. And we're not talking about, take an example like Yellowstone National Park. That land wasn't purchased. They walked up to a map and they went, we own that. It's now a park. No, they can't do that. It's unconstitutional. But, as I've said it before, when we have these unconstitutional laws that we all know are unconstitutional, us, the people, know are unconstitutional, we legitimize those illegitimate acts by complying with them. So what do? Well, you have two options. This is with any federal law. You comply, which in my eyes makes you a coward. B, you live your life. You don't go out of your way to break a law, an unconstitutional law, but you don't necessarily follow either. You just don't comply with them, And like I said, I'm not saying you have to go out and break a quote unquote law that the federal government has put in place, but they're not laws at all. They're not. They just don't have the jurisdiction. I mean, go read the 10th Amendment, and then go read Article 1, Section 8. That's the 18 specific powers we granted government. And tell me if you see the problem there. You see, when people read the Constitution, they want to read it clause by clause or section by section. You can't do that. You have to consider all things. Number one, what's most important in the Constitution is the Bill of Rights. No power that we granted government, even if we granted government the power to say, let's say, build this fence. We granted government to build fences wherever they wanted to. But this is my private property. My private property rights trump the authority that we granted government. See how that works? And they use the Commerce Clause and the Supremacy Clause and all that bullshit. It's not really bullshit. There's just a reason for that stuff, but it's not for this. They're abusing their power. They're taking on powers and giving it to themselves that they don't have. So, somebody asked me the other day, Nick, what would you do? If you could do something right now to change everything, what would you do? And explain why. Personally, and I'm sure everybody knows my view about the police, I have no sympathy for them. I have no empathy for them. I personally, I hate them. I'm not telling you that you need to. It's just my view on them. I have no use for them. Every single rights violation committed by government has happened at the hands of somebody that's had a badge on. You pay your income taxes. Why? Because if you don't, somebody with a badge on is going to come arrest you, or somebody with a badge on is going to garnish your wages or take your bank account. You pay your mortgage, your house taxes on your land taxes, property taxes when you pay your mortgage. At least most people do. Why? Why do you do that? Because if you don't, somebody with a badge is going to come evict you. I don't need it. I don't need the badge thug gang to protect my life and my property. I got this, and I'm sure that most of you don't need it either. And it's just another case of government taking it upon themselves to create. I mean, our government's tyrannical. There's no two ways about it. And in order for, I said it before also, in order for tyranny to take hold, 3 specific things have to happen. Number 1, time. And you need number 1 so you can make number 2 happen. Indoctrination. You need time to indoctrinate the people, to make them believe that what the government is doing is best for the people, and also make them believe that their unconstitutional acts are constitutional in our cases. And number 3, you need enforcement. That's it. You take any of those 3 things out, 30 fingernails, you take any of those 3 things out and you won't have a tyrannical government. Period. It's that simple. So we abolish the police forces. We start, then hopefully, if that was to happen, people would quit paying these stupid ass federal income taxes. The federal government would try to fight back. It would eventually get smaller. We would repeal all kinds of laws would be repealed. The federal, like I said, the federal government would get smaller. Welfare would go away. People would have to ensure their own survival. And the following year would be total chaos. I'll be the first one to admit that, and I said that. In the year, at least for a year, it would be complete chaos. A lot of people would die. A lot from starvation, some from getting killed from trying to steal other people's things, some people in the fight. You know, some good people would die. Is it worth it in the end? Yes, it would be, in my opinion. I'll raise my hand. I'll be the first to go. Kill me right now, as long as you all can be free in the end, or you all are going to fight behind me for what's right. I'll raise my hand and put a bullet in me right now. Wouldn't think twice about it. That's what freedom is. Freedom isn't necessarily me today. It's my kids. It's my great grandkids. It's you. That's who I care about. You know, there's a lot of men, women, and children who died for our freedom that were never free themselves. They were fighting to try to be free, but they knew as long as they won, even if they died in that fight, that you would be free, even though they didn't know you. And we have to get away with this from this complying shit. And you know, I'm not saying anything I haven't said before. I personally have made my decision. You know, I live a pretty good life. When you're speaking of how I treat people, I try to treat everybody fairly. I try to give everybody a chance. I don't take from anybody, meaning I don't steal from people. I don't bother their stuff, and I don't want to harm anybody. You know, like I'm the first person to jump in if somebody's hurt. You know, there was a gunshot victim a few months ago at Christie's work. I jumped in. We helped save the dude's life. It's a couple weeks before that, or the same week of that, the place caught on fire. You know, I jumped in and I put it out. You know, and I didn't do that for me. I'm not the one that saved millions of dollars from that place not burning to the ground from lawsuits. You know, her work saved all that money. I didn't even get so much as a thank you, and I don't give a shit. My point is this: if I'm not bothering anybody, why does any of this other shit matter? Just leave me alone. I just want to be left alone. I just want to live my life in peace. I want to keep the money I earn. I don't want to have to give it to any government. You know, just it's taxes or theft. We can all agree to that. And I'll take it even further, and I'll say it's slavery. Because what is slavery? Why was slavery so bad? It wasn't because the slaves weren't free, because they actually had a lot of freedom. It was theft of their labor. That's what slavery is: theft of labor. And when the government steals 30% of my labor annually, or your labor annually, there's a problem. And they steal that so they can grow. We're supposed to have maximum individual liberty, minimize government. And we're so far away from that. And it's because of fear. It's because you fear the police. You can say what you can say, give it any reason you want. That is why we have the problems we have, because you fear the police. Because I once feared the police. I was one of those people. You know, at one time I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to have to deal with them. You know what? I'll never go to jail. It's that simple. You have the last say in your life and what happens to you. You don't ever want to go to jail? That's cool. You can still fight. You never have to worry about going to jail because you have the last say in what happens. Personally, I'm not built for a cage. But I'm also not built for this imaginary cage, you know. I don't know if you guys ever heard that Slipknot song. What's the name of it? But the lyrics in the songs, you know, he says the air around me still feels like a cage, and that's where we're at, man. We're caged without even having bars around us. But it's time, people. It's long past time. Been saying that shit for 2 years too. It's long past time that we say enough's enough. Like, we don't care anymore. You do what the fuck you want. We're not consenting to it. We're not complying with it. It's that simple. We withdraw our consent. We'll no longer allow you to govern us until you operate within the restrictions that we've placed on you. It's that simple. Shit's crazy.